Adesha. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jasura Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Jasura Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Jashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Sisi Radha Madhava ki, Sisi Radha Giridhari ki jai. Jayo Viṣṇu Paramahamsa, Puri Vraj Gaja Shutala Siri Siri Maharaj Divine Grace of I Charanara Vinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jayo Viṣṇu Paramahamsa Puri Vraj Gaja Shutala Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada ki jai. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Samveda Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Gaura Premanandi, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories assembled devotees, all glories, Sisi Guru, Sri Gauranga. Make sure you take it back. So we're starting a new chapter in your lives today. Chapter 10. The battle between the demigods and Vritrasura. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So first we'll read the chapter summary. Okay. So if you want to cheat on the test at the end of the chapter, just read this. As described in this chapter, after Indra obtained the body of Dadhīci, a thunderbolt was prepared from Dadhīci's bones, and a fight took place between Vritrasura and the demigods. Following the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the demigods approached Dadhīci Muni and begged for his body. Dadhīci Muni, just to hear from the demigods about the principles of religion, jokingly refused to relinquish his body, but for higher purposes he thereafter agreed to give it up. For after death, the body is usually eaten by low animals like dogs and jackals. Dadhīci Muni first merged his gross body made of the five elements into the original stock of 5 elements, and then engaged his soul at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus he gave up his gross body. With the help of Vishwakarma, the demigods then prepared a thunderbolt from Dadhīci's bones. Armed with the thunderbolt weapon, they prepared themselves to fight and got up on the backs of elephants. At the end of Satya Yuga and the beginning of Treta Yuga, a great fight took place between the demigods and the asuras. Unable to tolerate the effulgence of the demigods, the asuras fled the battle, leaving Vritrasura, the commander-in-chief, to fight for himself. What do you call that? Is that insubordination? Is that what they call it in military terms? You just run away from the battlefield? Right? Vritrasura, however, seeing the demons fleeing, instructed them in the importance of fighting and dying in the battlefield. One who is victorious in battle gains material possessions, and one who dies in the battlefield attains a residence at once in the celestial heavens. In either way, the fighter benefits. So, text 1 today. I guess we go through the word for word. Sri Badarani Uvacha. Okay, here it goes. Okay. Indram evam samadhisha Bhagavan Vishvabhavanaha Pasyatam Animeshanam. Let's see, this is broken up for you. Tatra eva antardadhe harihi. Sri Badarani Uvacha Indram evam samadhisha Bhagavan Vishvabhavanaha Pasyatam animeshanam tatraiva tandade hari. Sri Badarani Uvacha Indram eva samadhisha Bhagavan Vishvabhavanaha Pasyatam animeshanam tatraivatar dadhe hari. Anyone like to chant? Sri Badarani Uvacha
samadhishya
Indramevam samadhishya
Bhagavan Viṣṇu
Bhagavan Viṣṇu
Paschyatam animeshanam
Paschyatam animeshanam
Daivatharade Hari
Daivatharade Hari
Srimad Bhagavatam
Indramevam samadhishya
Bhagavan
Viṣṇu Paschyatam animeshanam Daivatharade Hari Srimad Indramevam samadhishya Bhagavan Viṣṇu Paschyatam animeshanam Daivatharade Hari
Srimad Vacha
Indramevam samadhishya
Bhagavan Viṣṇu Paschyatam animeshanam Tatra Vaitardadahe Hari. Honey, do you like chanting? Shri Bhararayani Aruvacha Indrameva Samadhisha Bhagavan Viṣṇu Paschyatam animeshanam Tatra Vaitardadahe Hari. Anyone else? Anywhere else? Shri Bharani Aruvacha Indrameva Samadhisha Viṣṇu Bhagavanaha Tamamini Nesham Tatravantardadhe Hari. Shri Bhararayani Uvacha. Sri Shukadeva Goswami said, Indra, the heavenly king. Evam, thus, Samadhisha, after instructing Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishvabhavanaha, the original cause of all cosmic manifestations, Pushyatam Animeshanam, while the demigods were looking on. Tattara, then and there, Eva, indeed, Antardadhe, disappeared, Harihi, the Lord. Translation. Shukadeva Goswami said, after instructing Indra in this way, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, the cause of the cosmic manifestation, then and there disappeared from the presence of the onlooking demigods. Text number 2. Tatabi achito devar rishi atarvano mahan modamana udachidam prahasan eva bharata. O King Parikshit, following the Lord's instructions, the demigods approached Dadhīci, the son of Atharva. He was very liberal, and when they begged to give him his body, he at once partially agreed. However, just to hear religious instructions from them, he smiled and jokingly spoke as follows. Text 3. Api vrindaraka yuyam na janita sharirinam samstayam yastva abidroho dushahas chetanapaha. O elevated demigods, at the time of death, severe, unbearable pain takes away the consciousness of all living entities who have accepted material bodies. Do you know about this pain? Okay. Jivishunam jivanam atma prishta ihepsitaha ka utsatheta tam dhatum bhikshamanaya Vishnave. In this material world, every living entity is very much addicted. I didn't say attached, it says addicted to his material body, struggling To keep his body forever, everyone tries to protect it by all means, even at the sacrifice of all his possessions. Therefore, who would be prepared to deliver his body to anyone, even if it were demanded by Lord Viṣṇu? Purport by Srila Prabhupada. It is said, Admanam sarvato rakshat, tato dharmam tato dhanam. One must protect his body by all means. Then he may protect his religious principles and thereafter his possessions. This is the natural desire of all living entities. No one wants to give up his body unless it is forcibly given away. Even though the demigods said that they were demanding Dadhīci's body for their benefit in accordance with the order of Lord Viṣṇu, the Dadhīci superficially refused to give them his body. Om Agyanti Varandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chakshul Unminitam Nena Taismai Sri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Banchikapadrubhascha, Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Bhavani Vaishnavi Namo Namah. So by your good wishes and hopes, prayers, I'll say a few words. First thing I'll say is I think that door needs to be opened a little bit. Need a little air in here. Counteract my hot air. Okay. I was thinking, when I was looking at this yesterday, it's a nice verse to talk about after going to a funeral. I went to a funeral yesterday. From the funeral. Hare Krishna. So the known or unknown person? Well, they're known now. Nice person in the community. Very well respected. Big turnout. Very big turnout. And it was interesting, when there's a big turnout, what we do at the funeral is after everyone's spoken and I've spoken and the family, the oldest son or whatever, does all the rituals. The very last thing before the body is carried off for the cremation is you have all the guests and friends or whatever there come up. It's a big room and all these, they stand up and they come up and take handfuls of flowers and, place it with the body. Say a few final prayers and then the casket's closed and so on. And I was thinking that, there's that scene in your mind's eye that, at a slaughterhouse, all the animals are outside, and then one by one they're being, shooed inside. So this person's there, gone, passed away, and they're all coming up, but no one's thinking, maybe they're thinking a little bit at that time, but I could be next. Who's going to be next? They're all coming up, and you see and then they turn and they just talk about other things, business or this or that. And just like all those animals, myself included, we think it won't happen to us. Hani bhutani gacchanta yamalayam, right? Every day people are passing away, but stavaram, those who are still here, they don't think they're ever going to die. What could be more wonderful than this, Yudhisthira Maharaj said. Is that true? Is that why you're laughing? Or okay, I just want to make sure. Is it a jolly laugh of a self-realized soul, or like that? But it's just like he's saying here. We're addicted to the material body, but we won't give it up. It's an addiction. The material attachment is like an addiction. If you feel we can close that if it's just the construction is a distraction. So these few verses here. Of course, the demigods are acting on Lord Viṣṇu's instructions, and they're approaching the Dadhīci Muni. And, Lord Viṣṇu said, he'll give you his bones. So they come and they ask, and then he starts playing with them. Prabhupada says, use the word jokingly. He kind of jokes with them a little bit like, what do you mean? The body is very, very dear to all living entities. And everyone's avoiding death. There's a word here in this text number 3, dushaha, unbearable, adhidroha, Dushaha, an unbearable severe pain, the time of death. Confirmed. there goes the ambulance, right? The police. So, and everyone's trying to avoid it. No one wants to die. It's unbearable. Not just the pain of the body, because, very few people just kind of pass away quietly in their sleep. You hear about that, right? And sometimes you hear wonderful, wonderful passing of devotees and pious people surrounded by other devotees chanting the holy names. I've heard a few times from Indian families about their mom or grandmother just sitting down and doing bhajans in the morning and then just lying down and going away, passing away. Very pious, passing. But for most of us, it's very, very painful. This person yesterday, unfortunately, she had dementia for many years, and then just gradually her body just closed down. The body just stops like that. And the funeral last Monday was a young man here in Pacific Beach, 20s, car accident. Boom. So, and not only is it unbearable for us, but then all the relatives and friends, unbearable pain for them. Start crying and lamenting right there at the funeral. The cremation is devastating for them too. So it's leaving the body for the soul, ourself, and for someone in a family or friend, it's an unbearable, painful thing. And as Dadhīci says, don't you know about this pain? So why are you asking me to leave my body? It's such a painful thing. Why are you asking me to just give up my body to you for my bones? And he's saying everyone's addicted to this material body, and we're struggling. Prakriti stani karshati, Krishna says, that as soon as you come in the material nature, you start struggling. I'll give you a good example. Ramapati, do you like swimming? Okay, so we take Ramapati off the end of Crystal Pier. Just toss him off the end of Crystal Pier. You know where Crystal Pier is? It's that pier right down here in Pacific Beach. Right there, you just Crystal, and the end of Garnet Avenue. So, but as soon as Ramapati gets tossed off the end of Crystal Pier, he's Prakritistani Karshati. He's struggling, right? It's cold water and this and that. It's because it's just unnatural. Not meant to be out there. So, everyone in the material world, Prakritistani Karshati, we're struggling like anything. The soul in the material world. Remember that classic, A Stranger in a Strange Land? That may be a little bit before your time. I don't know if they still had it as required reading in school. But that's what we are. We're a stranger in a strange land. We don't belong here. And everyone's struggling. What they're struggling to do is to keep the body forever. Because the soul is eternal, and it's unnatural for us to die. And we protect it by all means. And Prabhupada in the purport, he quotes this Vedic aphorism, that first you protect the body, then you protect your religious principles, and then you protect your possessions, when there's some danger or something like that, right? Someone yells fire, what does everyone do? Run. I fly a lot, and they always make that announcement on the airplane. In case of an emergency, leave all your belongings, right? Don't take anything with you. Because, everyone's trying to cram all their stuff out the window, and people will die. So you leave everything behind and just go. Don't take anything with you. Like that. So prepare to save your body first. That's just natural. And then religious principles and other bodies, family members and so on. Like that. So that's just how it is. And why is that? Is because the soul is very dear. And Prabhupada says, now the soul is very dear, and that actually is proof that Krishna is very dear, because everyone's part and parcel of Krishna. It's proof right there. What's dear is actually the soul. So as far as this passing away of the body, the time of death, there are two very instructive parts in the Srimad Bhagavatam that help us meditate on this and help us give up our addiction. Probably use that a term. We're addicted. So we don't have much time, so I was going to read from one. That's Vidura talking to Dhritarashtra, his older brother, trying to help him out. And he was successful. And another very, very deeply instructive section is a story told by Narada Muni, Paranjana. about the time of death and everything closing in on a person, and so on. So I will read some verses here and talk a little bit. This is Vidura. Now he had left. Why did he leave? He left for quite some time. He had to leave the palace. It says with only his breath. Yes. It just laid into him. Very, very offensive. Very offensive. So he figured, okay, he's trying to give good instruction, but when it's not appreciated, just go, right? If your instruction is not appreciated, some of you just go, just like preaching, right? You're preaching if people aren't receptive or a person's offensive, you don't keep talking, right? Move on to someone else. It's just like they're not ready. They're not ready to hear, right? They're just not ready to hear. So he left for quite some time, visiting all the places of pilgrimage. He was even in Dwarka, and he knew about the passing of Lord Krishna from this world, leaving, but he didn't bring that up. It's described here at this time. He didn't bring it up. It was just too much. And then it says that after he was there for some time, text 13 of chapter 13 of the first canto, compassionate Mahatma Vidura could not stand to see the Pandavas distressed at any time. Therefore, he did not disclose this unpalatable and unbearable incident, because calamities come of their own accord. Don't worry, in due course of time, everyone will hear of it. So thus, Mahatma Vidura, being treated like a godly person by his kinsmen, remained there for a certain period just to rectify the mentality of his eldest brother, and in this way bring happiness to all others. So it said the real reason he came back, he didn't have to come back, but the real reason he came back was his true affection for his older brother Dhritarashtra. As long as Vidura played the part of a Sudra, being cursed by Munduka Muni, Aryama officiated as the post of Yamaraj to punish those who committed sinful acts. So Vidura was actually Yamaraj. He was cursed to take birth as a Sudra, so to play that part, he took birth as Vidura for some time. So, having won his kingdom and observed the birth of one grandson competent to continue the noble tradition of his family, Maharaj Yudhisthira reigned peacefully and enjoyed uncommon opulence in cooperation with his younger brothers, who were all expert administrators to the common people. So here goes. Insurmountable eternal time imperceptibly overcomes those who are too attached to family affairs and always engrossed in their thought. So you just have to wait. It will all happen. It will all happen. Insurmountable eternal time imperceptibly overcomes those who are too attached to family affairs. In the third canto, Kapila Muni compares it to the moving of clouds. You look up at the clouds, sometimes they're moving really fast if there's a storm, but otherwise they're just kind of floating through the sky. It's imperceptible, just as the clouds moving through the sky. Every single moment is passing, and moments turn into minutes, minutes turn into hours, hours into days, days into weeks, weeks into months, months into the seasons, seasons into the year, years into decades, decades into centuries, right? Just goes on and on and on and on. They have what they call geological time. You know what geological time is? Any science buffs here? Those big, big spans of time like the archaeologists have to deal with, right? Eons, epochs, they have all kinds of terminology. In the Vedas we have that also. Big, big spans of time. But for our short life, it just somehow or other it all passes. It just all goes by. Just like that, the funeral yesterday, it's quite common at funerals. They'll have a slideshow of the person's life. You seen that? The child, as a child, and their parents, and aunties and uncles, masis and masas, right? Everyone's there in the picture, and then their marriage, usually in black and white, if it's from that previous generation, and then all the different places they went and things they did and gatherings and so on, and then that's it. There they are. So imperceptible passing of time. It just, where did it all go? You ever hear that expression? Where did it all go? What happened, right? So here we go. Brought in his purports. Here's Prabhupada's purport. I am now happy. Here's a quote. I have everything in order. My bank balance is quite enough. I can now give my children enough estate. I am now successful. Excuse me. The poor beggar sannyasis depend on God, but they come to beg from me. Therefore, I am more than the Supreme Lord, unquote. That's how the materialistic person thinks. So, continuing on here, Mahatma Vidura knew all this. He was completely, as a devotee, completely aware of this imperceptible passing of time. And we don't have much time left. My mother, of course, she can say this because she's 92, has a saying over the last few years, I'm not long for this world. Have you heard that expression? I'm not long for this world. I think it's from a British poem, from an English writer. I am not long for this world. In other words, not much time left. Mahatma Vidura knew all this, and therefore he addressed Dhritarashtra, saying, my dear king, please get out of here immediately. Do not delay. Just see how fear has overtaken you. This frightful situation cannot be remedied by any person in this material world. From Lord Brahma all the way down. No one can stop. Who's the big demon who asked Lord Brahma to remedy the situation? Yeah, he asked for immortality, and Lord Brahma said, no es posible. He said, it's not possible, right? He didn't say it in Spanish, but not possible, because I'm not eternal. How can I give you eternality? So, it's not possible. My Lord, it is the Supreme Personality of Godhead as eternal time that has approached us all. So that's how devotee sees the passing of time. It's Krishna coming. Come on, come on. Or sometimes he's from the back pushing. For devotees, he's, come on. For the non-devotees, like, you ever get pushed from behind? Like that. So that's sometimes that's, In Mayapur. Well, that's probably a loving push. Like that. If you really want to get pushed, go to Tirupati. He gets squeezed and pushed. You know, all the pilgrims. It's amazing. I went there with there's a devotee. He passed away a few years ago. Raghaputra here in San Diego was a trial lawyer. I went to India with Prahlad Priya and him and so on, a few devotees, and I remember going through that line. If you've been to Tirupati with all the pilgrims, they just at the very end there, you actually don't sometimes pick it off your feet. They just come. And I remember seeing him. He was in front of me, like turning around, like, what's happening to me? Because he hadn't been to India for like 25, 30 years. He was tall, Western devotee, and he's just like caught up in this crowd of pilgrims, just kind of like in the current. Like, what's happening? He's like being carried away by the crowds towards Balaji. But whoever is under the influence of Supreme Kala must surrender his most dear life, and what to speak of other things such as wealth, honor, children, land, and home. So sooner or later you have to surrender it. Like that. It may be taken today or tomorrow, but you can be guaranteed everything. The account will be emptied at the time of death, whatever's left. It will be emptied. It doesn't stay. There's a saying in Germany. Anyone speak German? Nine? Because Shivananda Prabhu, who went to Germany, the first devotee went there. He was in Boston for many years. Actually, he was here also. But I remember when we give Bhagavatam class, he could quote that, because maybe it rhymes a little bit in German. But there's a saying in Germany, the dead have no pockets. The dead have no pockets. You can't bring anything with you. They have no pockets. Remind me at the end of class, when we have time, I'll tell you a joke about that. There's a good joke about this point. It's a good story. Mahabharata told it to me. Continuing, your father, brother, well-wishers, and sons are all dead and passed away. You yourself have expended the majority portion of your life. Your body is now overtaken by invalidity, and you are living in the home of another. This also sometimes has been translated. I remember Hridayananda Maharaj giving this class, someone giving this class. Vidura, what he's saying to Dhritarashtra is the purpose for which your life has been given, it's over now. It's over. Right? He took birth as a king, and he couldn't take over the kingdom, but in royalty, he had a very, very prestigious position and this and that. But now it's over. So you take your birth and, whatever it is, you have youthful energy and you accomplish so many things, but at the end of life, it's really over. In fact, you start becoming a burden. When you get really old, you become a burden. It's like no one wants to see you anymore. They put you in an old age home, right? You're a financial burden sometimes. You're an emotional burden. You just become a burden, unfortunately. That's what happens. Because the real purpose of your life is over. You're not making any contribution to the family anymore. Usually, I mean, you're not making any money, right? And you're invalid. People have to take care of you, right? All those different things. So it's over. That's what he's saying. What you're hanging on to, it's over. It's over. So you have been blind from your very birth, and recently you have become hard of hearing. Your memory is shortened, and your intelligence is disturbed. Your teeth are loose, your liver is defective, and you are coughing up mucus. Alas, how powerful are the hopes of a living being to continue his life. Verily, you are living just like a household dog and eating the remnants of good food given by Bhima. I don't know if it's in this purport or somewhere else. I heard a class devotee was saying, I think it was actually Ramapad Maharaj, because I was listening recently, that maybe it's in the Mahabharata, but Bhima never, ever got over what happened. And even in the royal palace sometimes, in Dhritarashtra's hearing, so you could hear him, he would say all kinds of horrible things about Dhritarashtra and everything. They never forgave him for what he did. So he had to hear that. Like, why are we maintaining this person? He's this and that. He's just on purpose, just to hurt him. Like that. That's what it says. So there's no need to live a degraded life and subsist on the charity of those who you tried to kill by arson and poisoning. You also insulted one of their wives and usurped their kingdom and wealth, despite your unwillingness to die and your desire to live even at the cost of honor and prestige. Your miserly body will certainly dwindle and deteriorate like an old garment. And these are the last two verses. He is called undisturbed who goes to an unknown, remote place and, freed from all obligations, quits his material body when it has become useless. He is certainly a first-class man, it's called Narottama, who awakens and understands either by himself or from others the falsity and misery of this material world, and thus leaves home and depends fully on the personality of Godhead residing within his heart. So it's a very nice instruction. And of course, did Dhritarashtra listen? He did. He did. And he attained that perfection of liberation and so on. And Gandhari left with him and so on. In the middle of the night, they just left. Didn't leave a note. Nothing. They just left. So, Dadhīci Muni is speaking along the same lines, just to hear, he wants to hear the demigods' rebuttal. Something like that. He wants to hear the persons they're speaking on religious principles. Because he's making a very good point. No one wants to give up their body. We're so attached, right? Who's making a plan, right? No one's making a plan. They say you have a financial planner and this and that, but that's for other people. It's not really for you. It's when you're gone, who gets all your money, right? Who gets your money? Or you may have a plan. It's called long-term health care. Very expensive, but your body starts falling apart. Who's going to take care of you, right? Because it's very difficult. Family members can't do it. It's just too stressful and this and that. But you're not stopping anything. You're not stopping time from passing and the inevitable from happening. You're not stopping it. You can't stop it. They pretend they can stop it, right? They have plastic surgery, right? The cosmetic industry and the plastic surgery to try to keep you looking young. But sometimes it's quite embarrassing, right? You see elderly people trying to look young. It's quite embarrassing, right? So there's nothing that can be done for the body. So it's for the soul. And that's what the transcendentalists or devotees are concentrating on, because we know it's coming. And Prahlad Maharaj, he was preaching really heavy to his classmates. 5-year-old boy, given the straight Bhagavatam sauce to 5-year-old children. You know what they told him? You're right, you're right, you're right, you're right, you're right. Prahlad, you're absolutely right. But we're little kids now. We should just play. Let us play. And then later on in life, when we're old, we'll take up Krishna consciousness. We'll take up spiritual things. It's not for kids. We're not old. And then Prahlad Maharaj said, actually, everyone is old. You know why? Old age, what does it mean? You're close to death. So who can say you're not close to death? You can't say. Any moment. Just like we talk about funerals, sometimes I'll perform a funeral for someone who's in their 70s and 80s. And sometimes I'll perform a funeral for a 3-4-year-old child. They were old because death happened. So we don't know when death will come. And how much time do we need to become Krishna conscious? How much time do you need to become fully Krishna conscious? No, I'm asking you a question. How much time do you need? If I could guarantee you, how much time do you need to become Krishna conscious? A lot, as much time as you possibly get, right? In fact, I don't have enough time in this lifetime, right? We can say it like that. Only by the mercy of Guru and Krishna. We don't have much time. So that's one point that's always made, that the devotees or transcendentalists are always, they don't waste any time because they know they don't have much time, right? Just like, Prabhu, go cook the offering right now. Oh my God, I'll better hurry up. I don't have much time, right? I don't have much time. I better concentrate and get it all together, right? Because I know I don't have much time. I don't have much time at all. So that's how a transcendentalist thinks, and because that's the reality. We don't have much time, so we don't want to waste time. How valuable is time, according to Chanakya Pandit? Swarni Koti B, what does that mean? Yeah, millions of gold coins you can't buy back. One moment. That's pretty valuable. Right? And people probably, I think we're in the purports here, is making the point, you can't buy back. People want to buy back. They want some more time. Prabhupada tells a story about that one gentleman he knew in India. I don't know, it was in Allahabad or wherever. He was asking the doctor. The doctor said, you're going to die. And he said, doctor, can I pay you something? I need 4 more years to finish all my plans for my children and business. Doctor, I can't do anything. Very, very wealthy person, all this money, but you can't buy back even one moment of time. It's you have to go, so we don't know. We don't know. But the illusion of youth is, got a lot of time. Got a lot of time. What is that song by the Rolling Stones? There you go. Can speak to someone a little older there. Yeah, I got time on my side or whatever, right? Is that what it is? Like that. Well, you don't. Look at the gentleman who wrote that song now. He definitely doesn't have time on his side, right? It's past. It's gone. Time is pushing everything. So the Dadhīci, they're going to have a conversation here, and the demigods are going to explain, and he's actually just joking because he's transcendental as far as his body, and that's there. But he just wants to bring out the conversation. Devotees, they churn the philosophy and understanding for our understanding. This conversation has been recorded. So any questions or comments, because it's a little bit late. Okay, but first let's see if anyone has any questions or comments. Okay, because it's about the statement in the German statement about the death have no pockets. So there's this woman, and she was married, and her husband was a real horrible person, very wealthy, a miser, didn't give her anything, very unkind to her, and so on, right? So he dies. But before he dies, he tells his wife, my last request is that you bury me with all of my money. So her friends heard about that and said, what are you going to do? She said, well, I'm his wife. I have to do what he said. I have to bury him with all of his money. She's thinking, oh my God, why is she doing this? You know, the guy was never nice to her and this and that. So anyways, the day of the funeral's there, and she's there, and all the friends are there, and it's an open casket and so on. And she walks up to the casket. She has a check written, all, you know, whatever his total value of estate is. Puts it in the casket, closes it, and walks away. So our friends are very, very happy because it doesn't mean, where's he going to cash it? Like that. So she got all the money. But she also fulfilled his desire. Wrote him a check for everything and put it in the casket. So the point is, he can't spend it anywhere. What's going to do? You know, it's interesting. You know, just like these the pyramids. You know, they just put everything in there. And my sister-in-law just came back from Egypt. You know, they visited pyramids and these museums and so on. And household pets were mummified. In other words, they brought everything with you. You know, poor Fido. You know, the king dies, and all of a sudden they got to I got to become a mummy too. You know, they kill them and turn them into mummies, and you know, all the different possessions and all, because they figured you're going to take it with you. That's the illusion. They're going to go to the other side, and all that wealth. That's why they had all these tomb raiders and people breaking into pyramids, because they knew that the kings were buried with all of this wealth. But not only that, but they took pets and family members with them. It's like that. Don't die, because if you die, you're going to kill me. I got to go with you. So, anyways, but that's the joke. She wrote a check and put it in there, and everyone was happy for her like that. She outsmarted her husband, late husband. Okay, so we can add a question? Okay.
Yeah, you're mentioning these, what do they call them nowadays? Elderly homes, or is that what they call them?
Yes, yes. Assisted living.
Assisted living.
They don't call them old folks only. Assisted living. Got to be correct on that one. Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, yeah, those are, I mean, really terrible places. I mean, people who spend their lives, I mean, a lot of the times, of course, not all the time, but we're saying most of the time, it's, you know, it's Kali Yuga, but they spend their lives in sinful activities, and then at the very end they're there, and, you know, no one really cares about them. I mean, they're there in these assisted living places, and I think you were working in something like that, right? And it's a really intense atmosphere. And anyways, recently there's this devotee, her and her husband, they had this idea that, hey, let's make one of these, but a Krishna conscious one. And so they sold their properties, wherever it was, Florida, this and that, and they moved to Tucson, and it's right near the temple. It's like a walking distance from the temple, and they built it from scratch. And there's room for about 10 devotees there, and they're going to open it. They plan to open it soon. But yeah, it's really amazing. They're going to have, you know, kirtan and prasadam and the deities, and it's right near the temple. And it's going to be for devotees who have, you know, need it, who've dedicated their life and who need it. So, anyways, I just wanted to say.
Thank you for letting me know.
It was quite a contrast, you know. So I visited that facility, and the devotees were giving me a tour of, you know, explaining what they're going to do. And then the same day, I went to another facility, assisted living facility, and there was a devotee there, one Prabhupada disciple, Chaturhas.
Oh.
Yeah, he's there. He was in L.A. for many years. He's the one who painted the ceilings on the L.A. temple, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes.
Wow.
And he did that Prahlad painting. Yeah. So, anyways, he was there, so we visited him, and you know, we gave him some prasadam, and his eyes got really big. He was, you know, real ecstasy taking the prasadam. But, you know, we're just talking to him for a while. But they're inspired to create this facility because of him. You know, because he had a stroke, and then now he's in this facility, and so they're making the facility under the inspiration of him, and they're going to bring him there, and, you know, so. Yeah. Anyways.
No, it's interesting you talk about these facilities. When Braja Badu was here, she was in one facility. I don't know if it was the last one or before that. And it was interesting, devotees found out just across the hall, there was a devotee, member of the congregation back here in the 70s and 80s. He was kind of a naturopath. He was there. He wasn't old at all, but he had a stroke or something. So it could happen to anyone at any time, and he landed up in assisted living. He was probably in his 50s or something, because it was, maybe 20 years ago. And it was like, wow. So it doesn't depend on just being so old. Anything happens, and then that's it. So these are just happy things to meditate on today. But, temper our enthusiasm for Krishna consciousness. Like that saying, light a fire under someone. So this type of part of the philosophy is to light a fire under us that, yes, this is the material world. But, just like the example you gave, everything can become happy if Krishna's in the center. So even an assisted living can become a happy place for everyone if Krishna's in the center. So we'll end here. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.